Okay.
Do or do not? Or not?
Do or do not, there is no try. Always with you, it cannot be done. There's that girl I like again. She keeps popping up all the time. I don't know what's going on there.
She's talking.
When it comes to getting our financial poop in a pile, I know pastors aren't supposed to talk like that, but everybody knows who I am, right?
Don't.
All right? When it comes to...
Do or do not, don't try.
That's right. I don't try to be a pastor. I just am what I am.
You should have got
Okay, so here we go. You have to unlearn what you've learned. Everything in that quote is true about finances. I'm hearing from people, I can't do this, or I'll never be able to do this. It's the way I've always done things. And literally a couple of million people have been through this program and have been successful. If they can do it, you can do it. So, step one, what?
Save
Save $1,000. Sell stuff. Get a second job. Sell your children. I don't care what you do.
Sell the dog. Sell the pets.
Sell the pets, yes.
I don't have that. Sell the husband.
Sell the husband. Get rid of the boyfriend. I don't care.
I do not have a boyfriend. He's my boyfriend.
Step two,
Yeah.
pay off your debts.
No question.
We're going to get into step 3 today. How you doing on putting your $1,000 together? Once you get that together, you need to cut up your credit cards. Actually, you should do that right now. And stop it. Stop it! Right? So,
Mike, I have a question on two.
okay,
Does that include your college?
pay off your debts? Yes,
Just doing
absolutely.
So you can be there forever, and then you don't.
That's not true. You need to listen to Yoda a couple hundred times. Do or do not.
Well, we just graduated.
You have to unlearn what you've learned. I sat with literally Monday night, I sat with a 25-year-old who has got $100,000 in student loan debt. She's done, depending on how gazelle intense she becomes, she's 3 to 7 years from paying it off. And she's making $38,000 a year. And she can pay it off, and if she's beans and rice and doesn't do anything for 3 years, she's got it paid off. At $38,000 a year. And if she spends $650 a month on clothes and travel, she's 7 years out. I haven't spent, her budget for clothes is $250 a month. A month, yeah, I haven't spent that much in a year. Have I? But, say hello. That's not my phone, good. Okay,
She needs the paperwork.
okay, it's on my wife's, my wife can help you with that, I think.
I do too.
Oh, you have this in the car?
We still need the new one.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, we're gonna do family spending plan, i.e. budgeting tonight. And then step 3, 3 to 6 months to 1 year of savings. And our verse for tonight is, for which of you intending to build a tower does not sit down first and count the cost, whether he has enough to finish it? Lest after he has laid the foundation and he is not able to finish, all who see it begin to mock him, saying, this man began to build a tower and is not able to finish. Jesus believed in planning. This is a Jesus parable. So So we're going to talk about your spending plan. My wife invented that term for me, as I already said, because I hate the word budgeting. So this is the singular most important part of this class. This is the singular most important part of this class.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay, good.
Just in case.
Everybody got the point?
Got it.
Do the budget. There is an app for those of you who are like super smartphone oriented called Every Dollar. It's in the Dave Ramsey menu of stuff. If you'd rather do that than the hard copies I handed out, fine. But you can do it electronically on your smartphone for those of you who are named Every Dollar. And you're going to name every dollar. Now, frankly, I don't care what you name every dollar. If you want to have $250 a month for clothes, I don't care. That's up to you. If you want to do $400 a month for travel, I don't care. All right? It's your spending plan, it's not mine. I will tell you that the more bare bones you are, the faster you will get out of debt. Again, it's 4 years difference with this young lady I was with Monday night. Have a budget meeting. For those of you who are married or have significant others who are about to be married, have a budget meeting.
Budget meeting with your stuff.
Free spirits, show up. The pretty blonde lady over there, 4 years. I want to talk about finances. I want to talk about finances. I want to do our budget. Yeah, sure. Let me know when it is. And then I never showed up. Okay? So, free spirits got to show up and engage. Nerds, be brief. Okay? I do not, you got 15 minutes. And then I'm looking out the window and there's birds flying by and you've lost me. Okay? And frankly, it was that way in my business. My office manager, who also did the books, she had 15 minutes with me every 4 weeks. I had 4 questions for her. We covered the 4 questions. And then she was all disgusted because she'd worked so hard on all this stuff and I could care less. After the 4 questions were answered, I was done. Poor Roberta. We're going to do a zero-based budget. When we take all of what we have spent and our income, when we get to the bottom, it's going to be 0. So, what we're not spending in bills is either going to go into savings or debt reduction. And so you're going to have nothing. If you got something left over, you haven't named every dollar, right? Because the point is to name it. Do the budget! Get an accountability partner. And if you were like I was back in my broken days, it might not need to be your spouse if you're married or your significant other. I needed somebody to slap me upside the head. So, and you got plenty of people here that are on the same road you are. If you don't have an accountability partner, get one. And finally, do the budget!
I think we're supposed to do this.
If this is the singularly most important thing you're going to do that's going to make this successful, you got to do a budget. Okay? Your spending plan. Money is active. It's a tool, but it's also active. It grows its own legs and walks if you don't name it. Right? Okay? If you don't name it, it grows its own legs and walks away. You must do a spending plan every month. Along with that, you have to balance your checkbook every month. Overdrafts are a sign of crisis living. Brandy, I'm going to get to come in here, if not this week, next. And Abaca. And again, I tell this with permission, they were running 4 and 5 overdrafts a month. At how much? $30 a crack. 4 of those over the month
That's a whole day finish.
is $120. Bye-bye. That can be applied to debt reduction or savings, right?
Right?
So if you're doing overdrafts, it's a sign of crisis living. And it's a sign of not being an adult. We'll talk about that in a minute. If not managed, ATM and debit cards are budget busters. Now, I don't want you using credit cards. You need to cut those up and send those far, far away. I've had people put them in blocks of ice and freeze them in case someday they might need them. Guess what they do? They unthaw them, or they take a hammer and bust them up. No, cut up, go away. 22% interest, you will never pay them off, paying the minimums. It's designed that way. Even if you're at 7 to 12%, it's still going to take forever. But debit cards are okay. They're going to pull directly out of your checking account, right? And you can use debit card. Don't tell me, well, I can't rent a car or get plane tickets. Yes, you can. I promise you can. They're exactly like, be used like credit cards. So, but they're going to pull out of your checking account, and then that makes you susceptible to overdraft fees again if you're not naming every dollar. You with me? Be an adult, manage your money and stuff. I was going to do this before I did this. When Shreen and I were in Africa, I got this because I knew I was going to make a lot of mistakes. And I keep putting my umbrella of grace on. This is my umbrella of grace. See, grace? So I'm about to get mean. Adults devise a plan and follow it. Children do whatever feels good. Be an adult and make a budget. And yes, some of you are children. I was for over 20 years, okay? And that's how you get into six-figure debt very fast. Adults devise a plan and follow it. Children do what feels good. Be an adult, make a budget. Your spending plan is not bread and water, unless you want it to be. Naming every dollar does not mean, and for the free spirits among us, if you do a bread and water budget, you're going to bust it right away. Because your free spirits can't deal with it. I strongly recommend that you have fund money in your budget of at least $20 a week. Okay? So when I say budget,
That's okay.
everybody says, oh no, bread and water, we're never going to have any fun. Again, I don't care what's in the budget, but name it. I'm putting 20 a week away for fun, or 40 a week away, or 300 a week. I don't care. It's your money. Okay? It's not bread and water, and nerds, it's not a hammer. Okay? You're bad. You broke the budget this week. Smack, smack, smack. Okay? It's not a hammer. However, Well, we'll talk about the mechanics later. You are going to, your first 6 months of budgeting, you're going to be off. It is a tool and it's active. It's a work always in progress. The first time you sit down and do your spending plan, it's not going to be right. The second month it'll be a little better. The third month it'll be a little better. The fourth month it'll be a little better. 5 to 6 months, you'll pretty much have it nailed. Okay? But in general, it's going to be a work in progress. Because there's stuff you're not going to anticipate. Now, the budget forms I've handed out and what's in every dollar on the app is pretty inclusive. But some of you may have weird stuff. Do not be afraid. Okay? I've had people who didn't want to do a spending plan because they were afraid what it was going to tell them. Fear is of the devil. He doesn't want you doing the right thing. He wants you to be afraid. Do not be afraid. You with me?
Yeah.
Your spending plan. Adults have a plan and live by it. Children go with what feels good at the moment. Jesus had a plan and endorsed planning. Acts 2:23 and Luke 14. Luke 14 is the one we just we started the class with about building a tower. Somebody want to look up Acts 2:23, please? We should have called that out before we got there. Somebody got it? Shereen, you there? Go. Oh, you're not there yet?
This man was handed over to you by God's deliberate plan and foreknowledge, and you, with the help of wicked men, put him to death by nailing him to the cross.
Okay. So Jesus' life was a plan, right? His plan was to come and die for us so that we could attain abundant life through him, and having your finances in control is part of the abundant life, right? Plan is right there in the verse. A written plan removes crisis from your finances. You see how that's good? If you're naming every dollar, it eliminates getting to the end of the month or running out of money before you get to the end of the month. And then you're saying, I've got a week to go, I've got hungry babies, what am I going to do? Right? It protects your family by providing for the 4 walls: food, shelter, utilities, and transportation. Those are what Dave calls the 4 walls, and they have to be provided for first. Everything else is secondary to that. That make sense? Eating, putting a roof over your head, keeping the utilities on, and being able to get to work. Okay? Managed money feels like a raise. I promise. When you sit down and do your spending plan, some of you are going to be shocked at how much money is left over at the end of the month. The young lady I sat down with Monday had $600 she had no idea where it went. A month. Now, she was kind of a special case, but it's not unusual by naming every dollar that you find that money's just going out the window like a little bird. A written plan when agreed to and actually lived on. Now, this is for those of you who are married or have spousal units or potential spousal units. It eliminates fights. What do you mean we don't have any money for food? You got my check. I don't know. I just don't have any money. Eliminates shame, guilt, and fear. If you're naming every dollar, it eliminates shame, guilt, and fear. It eliminates overspending and gives you a sense of power and control. See all that? Okay. As I said, on the first day we did this, or first 3 weeks ago when we started this class, if I were to hire you to run my business like you run your personal finances, how long would you work for me?
Forever.
Till the first paycheck.
Till the first paycheck?
Forever. I pay all my bills.
So you need,
I pay the company bills on time.
every business works on a budget, right, Mario?
Yes.
And when you bust the budget, what happens?
Somebody was fired.
At least the chief financial person will have a serious conversation with you, right?
My landscape manager couldn't account for $15,000 of expenditures for buying mulch, trees, and whatnot. I was like,
And is he still working?
well, we had a solid conversation.
Oh, okay.
Everything was accounted for at the end. He just needs to.
Didn't do his accounting.
He needs to do this.
He didn't name every dollar.
Exactly.
So we do that on a smaller scale every day,
Yeah.
right? If we're not naming every dollar, no, maybe a buck or two or three or five. Again, I don't care if you want to get a $6.75 latte at Starbucks. Okay? It's your spending plan, it's not mine. But I just want you to name it. Okay? Get control over what you're doing. Your spending plan will not work if you leave things out. And you're going to leave things out the first 3 or 4 or 5 months. You really are. You're just going to make mistakes, and that's okay. That's part of the process. Yes, ma'am.
So I have like the flex spending account, which is pulled from my check beforehand, so do I need to budget any of that in there,
You can work with your net instead of your gross. I would suggest, for lack of complicating your life, it's been a
or?
long
Right,
day, that you just work with your net.
okay.
So, is that a good idea, dear?
It is a good idea, because one of the things that we discovered, we would write down our plan, and we always had the medical in there.
Right.
And then you add that to your, end of your budget, and you forget, oh, that's all coming out already. That doesn't need to be there, you know, and you don't wanna
I mean, we have a
complicate
cap, so I guess once that's met, then I would
it. Yeah.
start
So it's,
budgeting it in.
it's interesting, you know, you've already got it, it's like you could put it in a savings account, this is my medical savings, you know?
Right, yeah.
So, that's just one of the things we
Mhm.
discovered, it kind of.
But again, it's perfectly okay, and that's why I like to do 8 weeks, because this 4-week class is just too short. But keeping your all attention for 8 weeks might be a bit of a stretch, especially the free spirits in the group. So, but if we do 8 weeks, we generally get 1 budget cycle in the 8 weeks at least. Sometimes 2, depending on how it falls. And it kind of helps us work through this together. It will not work if you leave things out, and you're going to do that, but you're going to figure it out within 6 months. If you overcomplicate it, nerds, Okay, that is an overcomplication question to me. Something that's already out, you deal with your net, not your gross. If you don't actually do a spending plan, it won't work. And if you don't actually live on it. Okay? Oh, it's not in the budget, but I'm gonna buy a 65 Mustang 2+2, chopped and channeled anyway. Okay? I've done that. Well, not that, but I bought a pool table like that.
Sweet.
Back in the crazy days. Hey, dear, guess what I'm bringing home? Actually, I didn't even say that. It just showed up.
Oh,
It was on sale.
yes, that was the problem.
Of course, it was like, it was,
Just think of how much we saved.
There you go, your Christmas gift.
I can tell you the mental gymnastics I went through with that. But, and it wasn't a cheap pool table either, I will tell you that. Again,
Do you still have it?
yes. And I've hardly played it since I bought it. Okay, so I've given you 2 worksheets.
I'm not sure everybody got 2 worksheets, honey, because when we were here, all we had was the monthly cash flow.
Okay,
The other
you're
two
getting-
might not have
You should all have the allocated spending plan. This is not the budget. This is a worksheet if you choose to help you put your budget together, your spending plan together. Okay?
I don't know if everyone has that.
It greatly, who doesn't have, do I need extras made?
It is fine.
Okay,
is this the one? Which one?
it says allocated spending plan.
Oh, we just have one. Oh, here's another one then.
You got one? Yeah, she needs one. Right, Tammy, you need one?
Do you have 2? You have
What's
1.
the difference between?
Everybody should only have 1 allocated spending plan. This is a worksheet to help you figure it out. So you need one? Okay.
What's the difference between this one?
I don't have my keys. So you're gonna have to find them.
But you could, oh, no, you have
Well, I'll get it for you.
Yeah.
But what's the difference between this one?
Okay, so this is simply a worksheet to help you get your poop in a pile. You got poop? Okay? No, Mickey doesn't have one. You get yours. Okay, so it's just a worksheet to help you work through. Almost everything is on there. I can't think of anything that's not. But somebody like Mario isn't normal, so he might have something outrageously weird on there.
Hats.
Hats. Hats are not in
That's
there,
not in the budget.
but that might fall under clothes. Okay?
Not in the budget.
So,
Not in the budget.
okay? So that can be a beginning piece of paper to help you start working through getting everything down. I've given you 2 actual spending plans. So you take the allocated thing, if you want to do that, and then transfer it to here, or you can just work off this, I don't care. Again, it's up to you, and they're front and back, by the way, saving the church paper. Okay? And again, remember, it's zero-based budgeting. My plan is to get done early enough tonight that if you have your stuff with you, we can start working on this right now. Okay? Because remember, I told you for your homework to do what? Gather your stuff. Right? So, this is pretty complete. Again, and this is right from Dave Ramsey's stuff. So here we go. The Every Dollar app will do all of the addition automatically for you. Bang, 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 bang. And if you plug in your debt numbers, your payments, and your payoff, it will tell you how long it will take to get out of debt completely.
If you're.
And for me to sit down and do that with you without that app takes me a long time because I suck at math. That's why I hire it. Okay? So, but I had a request for old school. And so here you are. And this, but certainly to get out of debt, it makes, the app is a lot easier for me to help you with, okay? So if you'll notice on the bottom of your cash flow plan, it shows a zero-based budget here. Very bottom, third page. Looks just like this. Lower corner. You all there? Okay? This is not the hard part. This is math, right?
Oh, I was gonna, because I'm gonna probably use the phone anyways, that.
Okay, well, you're giving me are you, yeah, right down. Thank you. This is a worksheet to get started. You can ignore it. I'll explain it. The young lady Monday night was super easy.
Your shoes up
I know. That foot hurts. I'm old.
Nerd question.
Well, you might
Nerd
fall.
question.
Take a couple days off then. So she had like 6 things. And so actually the quick start budget was okay with her. And so I just threw numbers together for her very quickly because she didn't have 30 entries. Okay? So, again, if you do this and you stick to it, most of you, the average, again, I've done this for 20 years, the average is between 3 and 5 years. Some people faster. It's rare to be faster than 3 years to be debt-free, except for the house. And it's rare to go over 5. Depends on how intense you want to be. And remember, there's 3 ways to deal with this. Make more, spend less, or a combination. So, if you you can get out of debt faster or slower, depending on how intense on the savings you want to be, or how intense you want to be on making more money. Key to this is what's the goal. Brandy will come in here and I'll ask her to bring in a picture of her house. Okay? And I don't think she's showing up this week, but I think next week. And she's got it on her fridge, and that's her goal, own her own house. Anytime she gets discouraged or wants to bust the budget, she looks at the picture. What's the goal? You know? So, what's your goal? And again, I can't supply that. And if you're not thinking that long term, you know, another couple that are here, his goal is to not work for his crappy boss anymore. You know? I've had other people that want to start their own business. Well, I definitely don't recommend going into debt to start your own business because that's about 100% guarantee you're going to fail. So, what's your goal? To do this well, you need to have your goal constantly before you. What's that look like? And how easy would it get to be your goal if you had no debt? Except for a house. Amen? Okay. We'll circle back to the spending plan. But make part of your budget to save money, and that's in the Every Dollar app, and it's in these papers, to save money. Your first, step one is to save $1,000. Okay, so step one, save $1,000. Step two, get out of debt, everything but the house. Step three is to you're out of debt now, you have no debt, except for the house. And so baby step three is to save an emergency fund of 6 months to 1 year. This is untouchable except in the case of what's an emergency? The furnace quits working, water heater quits working, roof caves in, medical emergency, engine blows up. Although if you're budgeting well, that should be in there, in your car repairs. Okay? If you look in the spending plan, there's a replacement for a car in there. Okay? So, Dave says 3 to 6 months. And you'll notice I got 6 months to a year. I said 3 to 6 months for many years, and then 2009 rolled around. What happened in 2009? The economy crashed and burned. And the only time it's been worse than it was 2009 was in the Great Depression of the 20s. People were out of work for better than a year. I had people coming into my business looking for jobs when the economy started picking up and I started hiring again. And by the way, I had to lay off half my staff in 2009. Because I had customers who were canceling orders like crazy. I just couldn't support my staff. And my sales went down 50%. Something I had to give. So it was either keep the staff until I ran completely out of money or let people go. So I had people coming in when I started hiring again in 2010, late 2010, that hadn't worked in a year. And that's when I adjusted this up. Now what does that mean? That is 4 walls. What's your budget for your 4 walls? Food, clothing, shelter, utilities, food, clothing.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't have clothing in there. Transportation, there you go. I don't have clothes in there because I'm not a clothes guy. So some of you can't last without buying clothes occasionally, and I can do just fine. I have a leisure suit from 1975 in my closet that I don't fit in anymore, but my grandkids love it. So, okay? So that's the 4 walls. This fund is for 4 walls. For Shireen and I, that's between 1,500 and 2,000-ish. I don't remember. Because that's not been something we've been concerned about for years, so. Because we're debt-free. Including the house. So, okay, so, that is the bare bones number. And Shreen can tell you her story, but that number is was super important to her.
You want a story? Well, I think I shared a couple weeks ago that all of us come from someplace different. all of us have a story, how we learned about money and what's important to us. And I came from a home that was, it was broken, it was struggling, and so it wasn't uncommon to be at different times of the year not knowing if we would still be living, as kids would know we wouldn't be living in that house next month. So that security became really important to me, just a security to know I've got someplace that's secure for my kids or for myself now. So when we were able to get our, we've got a year's worth in a savings, that it just like, it took everything off my shoulders. I don't think, I trust God, but He knew what I needed to be able to just grow in that grace of knowing there will be a time. So, sometimes there is, it's interesting, and some of you nerds will understand this. You're gonna get your money saved, your savings, and you've got this $1,000 for an emergency, and the emergency comes and you do not want to spend that $1,000. You're gonna take it from someplace else, because it was so hard to make that $1,000. And so it's kind of interesting, that's where you learn that freedom, then you just fill it back up. So for me, that's been that kind of grace.
And this 6 months to a year is huge. For security, for you ladies, in general, no, not 100% of you maybe, but it's probably darn near 100% of you. Having a year's worth of the 4 walls in the bank would be huge.
And it's just bare bones money with no extras in there, but
Right.
if we got hurt tomorrow, you know, when he was working, that would have been it. I mean, there was no backup thing.
Yep, when we were living
We didn't have
paycheck to
anything
paycheck.
safe, but, you know, so.
Yep. So imagine she's got a high back in the day. Now, again, the Lord's worked on both of us in a lot of different areas over the years. But back in the day, you've got this wild and crazy guy who shows up with an incredibly expensive pool table out of the blue, and a boat, and all kinds of other stuff. And we're living paycheck to paycheck, and she's got this high security gene. What does it do with our marriage? Because there's no security. And I'm just happily going along, feeding my brokenness and ignoring hers. So, good thing Jesus came along. Amen? Okay, so remember there's 2,500 verses on money and stuff. And I didn't read the ones from last week, my bad. So I hope you did, but here's the ones, here's some more for this week. Lazy hands make for poverty, but diligent hands bring wealth. And whatever you do, do it heartily as to the Lord and not to men. Diligent hands will rule, but laziness ends in forced labor. Those who work their land will have abundant food, but those who chase fantasies have no sense. By the way, I have a brother that I just had to walk through bankruptcy 2 or 3 weeks ago. And he was always chasing the next big thing and ended up losing everything. But he would, I mean, it was constant. Hey, Mike, I've got this great deal. And it was constant. I never participated, by the way. And that's what that verse is talking about. All hard work brings profit, but mere talk leads only to poverty. That again was my brother. The lazy do not roast any game, but the diligent feed on the riches of the land. A sluggard's appetite is never fulfilled, but the desires of the diligent are fully satisfied. That would apply to your spending plan. Don't be a sluggard on your spending plan. Sluggard is a lazy person, by the way. It's an old English word. A wise man thinks ahead, a fool doesn't, and even brags about it. Wow, did I have a party last night and spend a lot of money? I had a lot of fun. Woo! Go to the ant, you sluggard, consider its ways and be wise. It has no commander, no overseer, no ruler, yet it stores its provisions in summer and gathers its food at harvest. In their hearts, humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps. Be diligent to know the state of your flocks and attend to your herds. Remember now, the Bible was written back like we were 100 years ago. We were an agricultural society. To know the state of your flocks, again, that's a spending plan verse. What are your flocks? How are my flocks doing? How is my money doing? Right? Attend to your dollars. Name every dollar. He who is impulsive exalts folly. Everybody get that verse? Impulsiveness. Oh, that's a $3,000 pool table for $1,000. Woohoo! Right? What a deal. Yeah, sure. You laugh, but you do it with a... It really, that McDonald's shake really sounds good right now. It's only $4 as I blow my diet, and $4. Ice cream calls me. All right. So next week we'll finish up with steps 4, 5, 6, and 7. Again, we're doing 8 weeks in 4, so. All right. So let's